Hello there, right here we got the very first full snapshot for 1.18. This is snapshot 21W37A. Prior to this, there were experimental snapshots for 1.18, and that was something new that they started doing because the Caves and Cliffs Part 2 update did some really big changes to the terrain. Now they transitioned from experimental snapshots to normal snapshots that we're used to. So in this snapshot, they kind of review what their goals are, saying that they still want to continue to make improvements on how the game is running, since it increased the height and lowered the world down. They also asked for those that do play on it, check out this survey. And they also mentioned that there's currently no way to take your 1.17 worlds and prior and update them to 1.18, but that will be eventually coming in the future. In this article, they also review everything that's changed in 1.18. So if you guys want the review, stick around. Otherwise, skip to this timestamp on the screen now in order just to get to the new stuff that came out with this very snapshot. They talk about the dripstone caves and how they're going to have the point dripstone, the dripstone blocks, the stalagmites and stalactites and columns, and the pools of water, and extra possibility to find copper ore there. The lofty peak biome has the snow, as well as the dramatically jagged mountain peaks and exposed stone. It's also one of the biomes that has the goat spawns. Lush caves are with the moss-covered floors and ceilings, as well as the new spore blossom that grows on some ceilings and produces the green particles. It also contains the clay pools with the drip leaf plants growing out of them. You can find vegetation like the azalea bush as well as a flowering one. And the glowberries are naturally found here. And the lush cave biomes can be found by finding an azalea tree which has the rooted dirt that actually takes you all the way down to the lush caves underneath, where you can find hanging roots attached to it. Meadows are unique biomes that are large and grassy with flowers on them, and tend to generate up high like a plateau, or next to large mountains. And once in a while there could be a tall oak or birch, with a high chance of having a bee nest. And donkeys, rabbits, as well as sheep can spawn on top of this. You can also find villages inside of the new meadow biomes. Snow-capped peaks are the flatter ones with ice and snow, and they also spawn goats. Snowy slope biome is sort of a transitional biome between the mountain tops and lower biomes, and they can contain these powder snow traps. Goats can spawn here as well as rabbits. The stony peak biomes are the mountain type of biomes for the hot and dry biomes. That way there is no snow on top of them. But they can have these calcite strips as well as spawn in goats. Grove biomes contain spruce trees as well as powder snow traps, and generate at high altitudes between mountain peaks or hilltops, and can spawn in wolves, rabbits, and foxes. The groves biome do seem to be broken in this snapshot. The changes to world generation include increasing world by 64 blocks, making it from Y level 320 all the way down, where they added in another 64 blocks below the world, which takes you down to negative 64, making the total world height 384 blocks tall. All underground features and structures, as well as caves, can generate down to Y level negative 64. Only diorite granite, as well as andesite and dirt, no longer generate below Y level 0. They also changed the size and position of diorite, andesite, as well as granite, and unlike 1.17, you can no longer find dripstone clusters in normal caves, only in the dripstone caves. And anything below Y level 0 is no longer stone, but instead contains deep slate. And deep slate blobs no longer generate above Y level 0. They also separate the actual terrain from biomes, so now we can have all sorts of different shaped terrains, which can give some really cool looks. There's also less diorite, granite, as well as andesite above Y level 60. Stony shores contain strips of gravel now. Trees and swamps can now be submerged deep in water. 1.18 has these new large ore veins. The copper ones generate between Y level 0 and 50 and are mixed in with granite. Fossils found below Y level 0 will now have deep slate diamonds inside of them rather than having coal. These veins also come in the iron variation, which can be found between Y level negative 8 and Y level negative 60, and are mixed in with the new tough block. The new noise caves give more variation and size differences, and some can be extremely large. There's also 3 variations of the noise caves. The first one being cheese caves, which are like holes in Swiss cheese and can form caves of various sizes. There's also the spaghetti caves, which are most like the carver caves that we recognize in prior versions. And there is these noodle caves, which are smaller, thinner, and more squiggly than the spaghetti caves. The new caves can intersect the surface, including even underneath water, which can give some really cool exploration. Aquifers are added where they have a isolated water table that is all on its own and is different than a completely flooded cave. These aquifers that curve down low can be swapped out for lava, making huge lava pools. Now in these underwater aquifers, they do have magma blocks generate within them, allowing you to come in and get some more air. They did come in and remove underwater harbors as well as underwater canyons. They also changed the ore distribution compared to 1.17. Now it uses the new height for more strategy in mining, as some ores are more common at the very tips of mountains, where some ores are more plentiful at the very bottom of the world. So there's no longer a single Y level that is best to get all types of ores. Y level 0 is still the best in order to see almost all the ores except for emerald. And you can avoid mining through the harder deep slate, so mining would be faster. The best iron location is Y level 16. We can also find the very tip of mountains. The best for copper is 48. Lapis is best at Y level 0. The most coal is at 96Y. The best location for gold is Y negative 16. Redstone ore is at the very bottom of the world, negative 64, just above the bedrock. And same for diamonds. Yet lava still generates 10 blocks above the void of the world, so negative 54 is the best level in order to avoid the huge lava lakes when mining for diamonds. But you don't find as many diamonds in air exposed areas. But because there is so much surface area in large caves, it kind of evens out between branch mining and just searching for diamonds while walking through the caves. But you can find the best of both situations by finding flooded caves where diamonds are no longer air exposed, so they come in high quantities. Mob spawning has also changed, so now they only spawn if it is completely dark, when before it was light levels 7 and below. But they can still spawn underneath of the nighttime, even though it says there's a light level of 15 from the sky. They also fix a problem where players in multiplayer could end up getting tons of mobs spawning in the area compared to other players who could be getting no mobs spawning. So now if you run like your pigman gold farm in the nether, the rates shouldn't get ruined if other players also come into the nether dimension. Similar to other farms that you run in the overworld. Every player on the server kind of has their own isolated mob cap, and other players can't take it or give it to anyone else. Having two players in the exact same location also doesn't double up the mob cap. Besides the other 1.18 changes, they also came in with some new changes just to this new snapshot. This includes that villagers will no longer attack baby villagers, so you could use these guys to bring a village back if a raid came in and killed them all. A new feature is that you can use the right-click action of shears to make some plants stop from growing. So if I right click on this twisting vine, and then if we look at it with F3, it now has an age of 25. Same thing for this weeping vine. If I right click on it, it turns to age 25, meaning that it can no longer grow. Same thing for this cave vine, age 25. And we can also come down here to this kelp and do exactly the same thing. This is great for builders, so they don't have to worry about putting like string underneath of it, and it looks natural, while you don't have to worry about it continue growing. The lightning flash can actually be turned off now, using accessibility settings, where you can turn off so that the whole sky doesn't flash, and sometimes it can be a bit harsh on your eyes. They also added down the sprint toggle as well as the sneak toggle over into the controls menu. They also moved the keybinds to their own setting screen. So if you click this, then it goes into all the different settings. You also can specify exactly which audio device you want to use. That way it's not like playing through your speakers if you want to go through your headset. Axolotls can now only spawn inside of lush caves. So this is going to change my axolotl farm where they naturally spawn in and then you can collect a bunch of them. So now you're going to have to stick that farm with the inside of a lush cave biome. Now axolotls also have their own separate mob cap. If we pull up the F3 screen, and if we look right here at this row, M stands for hostile monsters, C stands for passive creatures, A stands for ambient, which are the bats. This A is for axolotls. There's also the U for underground creatures, which include the glow squid and used to also include the axolotl. There's also W for water creatures like squids and dolphins, and then there's a W for ambient water creatures, which include all the different types of fish. So if I spawn in some more of these, you see it increases that 1A. And if I kill all of the axolotls, you see the number regains and it sits at a mob cap of 6. They also raised the cloud level from 128, which was way down here, all the way up to 192. They also did some technical changes, including replace the client-bound chunk update network packet with another one which actually contains light update data. A separate light update packet still exists and is set when the light update happens without a chunk update. This is probably to fix an old bug from 1.14 where sometimes chunks wouldn't light up even though there was light sources in them. They also changed it so that the view distance now causes chunks to load like a cylinder around the player instead of like a square. Still seems very much like a square though. They also added information about the noise generation onto the F3 menu. They added this new rune-like font language that comes from Minecraft Dungeons called Iller Adrold. It's currently usable via commands. They also got an option so that you can start a profile using Rune Flight Recorder. So you can do custom events like Minecraft server tick time, sampling the vent exposing average server tick times at 1 second intervals. There's also Minecraft chunk generation, which is time taken to generate individual chunk stages. Minecraft packet read, which is network traffic. There's also world load finish event, or initial world loading duration. This is mostly used to get performance metrics about the game, moderate it. You can use these also in making reports. They also made changes to loot tables, where they added the functions set contents and set loot table. They also changed old world conversion. Prior to 1.2 will need to be converted in previous versions in order to be open, and conversions work best in versions 1.6 and before. Any worlds that are open for the first time in the latest version will have incorrect biome information. For priority update settings, they change it so that the settings will determine which chunks sections are updated synchronously during a single frame. Most conservative option nearby corresponds to the state before the update. New option by player as well as none significantly reduce the shutters when placed or remove blocks, especially light sources, but can potentially cause rare visual noticeable delay in world updates. They also did spawner data changes with custom spawner rules. Having a Minecraft server allows you to play with your friends, and you can get 25% off your first month if you use the code RAYS on Bisect Hosting, or if you use my link down in the description. They've been hosting Minecraft servers for a long time, and I've personally been using theirs for over 6 years, and they're the ones that are hosting the testing server where we let all the viewers join me as we play around on the newest snapshots. Using them supports me as well as lets us come up with crazy things during our testing streams. Thanks to Bisect Hosting for making this all possible. Mojang also came out with some changes to the old features, as well as did a whole bunch of different bug fixes, some of which have already been added into the experimental snapshots. They fixed the problem with the eroded badlands and rivers. When rivers were cutting through these guys, they were leaving big chunks behind in mid-air over here, but now the pillars will stay on their side. There were problems on multiplayer servers where the client render distance, which is what the player has set in his settings, wasn't adjusting to what the server render distance is if they were different. And this was causing faulty chunk loading. And we noticed this during our testing stream. They tweaked the scoreboard command to catch errors if the names were too long. They added in so the transition between oceans and land was more smooth and not so jagged, and they also came in with smoother biome generation. They added it so drowns can now spawn inside of warm oceans. These are the ones that have the coral in them. There was this problem that I noticed with beds where you sleep in them, you can actually type in chat, but when you'd wake up in the morning, your message that you're typing just vanished. And now this is fixed in the newest version. There was a problem that rabbits were spawning on snow layers rather than on snow blocks, and now they will spawn on these. So now we should be able to make rabbit farms on top of snow blocks instead of just like sand and grass. And make sure you're following me over on Twitch so you don't miss out on how we discovered these really cool and bizarre formations. Axolotls were still having trouble avoiding dangerous situations like lava, so they went ahead and fixed this so they shouldn't go ahead and hop in there no more. Now with the new world height, you can customize how high your world can be. And if you would set it really high, the highest being 4,064 blocks, just by looking upwards, you would actually drop your frames by a lot. And this problem has now been resolved. There was a problem in some cases, oceans were generating with stone floors, and now we should once again have the gravel or the sand. Now below Y level 0, a lot of different stones don't generate, such as like diorite, and also dirt is not supposed to generate down this low either, but it does with these mine shafts. These are the center of them, they have this dirt platform, and because this was occurring, they went ahead and changed this. So now the center rooms no longer contain dirt, but just look like a big dome shape with the mine shaft connected onto it. It looks a little bit weird, but I guess we're going to get used to it. In the bodies of water that are isolated in caves known as aquifers, the game was still placing in kelp as well as seagrass, which was only supposed to occur on the ocean floors, so this is no longer there. There's also a problem that magma blocks were generating at the bottom of oceans, despite that it's supposed to only be occurring inside of aquifers and ocean ravines. Dripstone was sometimes generating at the surface of lakes, but now that's been fixed. They changed enchanting tables to be like the Bedrock edition, where they put off a light level of 6. This doesn't have a huge effect, but we did use enchanting tables in different farms for their lower than 1 block height dimensions and their ability to not blow up by TNT. This means that we could use them to drop TNT on top of and blow up mobs nearby, very close to where they have spawned in. But because of changes with the way that with mob spawning need a light level of 0 in order to occur, and these guys putting off light, we can no longer put them near mob farm. But these mob farms are more just for fun in order to try to reach very high mob loot rates. When giving a mob the dinner bone tag and having them turned upside down, when you would go ahead and hold in some food in your hand, the mob would actually look the wrong direction for the food. He's currently looking more downwards, despite the food being up in my hand. And if I stand like below the sheep, notice that his head now looks up into the air, pretty much the opposite. A bunch of bugs to do with generation have been fixed. During generation, there were some surfaces which had very hard edges. Now they are smooth. They also fixed the problem with completely floating mine shafts, so now they should be supported. In weird cases, aquifers were actually creating air pockets for part of the caves that weren't being flooded. In rare cases, dripstone was floating without support because of local aquifer water levels. Rune portals were having problems generating below Y level 0, and now they should. There is a problem that sometimes a chunk would interrupt a cave and just fill it in. They also fixed this problem where we're seeing areas that had very flat edges. In some cases, caves were having a problem where the roads would be completely flat, which would look really strange. They resolved the issue where ravines would have their ores exposed in the center of the ravine. Some generation looked very chunk border-like, even though it was unrelated. Desert temples were accidentally being buried in the amplified worlds. Water sources were often being left in the middle of a ravine when the ravine cut through. They fixed a problem from 1.17 where iron ore wasn't increased on generation like it was supposed to be. They fixed it where magma was spawning in caves even though it wasn't actually underneath of aquifers where it's supposed to be. Glow lichen was actually spawning in places which weren't inside of caves. When placing in stuff like ore veins, aquifers, as well as the noise of the caves, it was all being done quite inefficiently. So now with these new changes, they should generate faster, making your worlds faster when coming up with new terrain. When playing on the floating islands generation, mine shafts weren't appearing as often as they should be. This has now been resolved. But you can also find some other weird stuff like here's a village that is down in the void and everything is completely cut off. You got stuff like half doors. They also changed how withers work now. In the past, you could be in survival and you could be pretty far away and they wouldn't pursue you. And even if you did get close, the side heads would try to attack you. Notice that the two side heads are looking at me, trying to shoot at me. But the wither itself wouldn't actually come after you. The wither would kind of sit in the middle and just shoot at you. This did make the wither less dangerous as you didn't have to worry about him attacking you until you actually made the first attack to him. So as soon as you would damage him, then he would aggro onto you and try to attack you. Now this is something I showed in many of my videos, and most recently I showed it in how you can easily kill a wither in about 5 seconds with just a handful of materials. But this has all actually been changed in the most recent snapshot. Now the withers will automatically aggro onto you, but this doesn't actually change any of my wither cages. The ones that still work are stable, and the super easy killing method that I showed to do with dripstone also still works. Check out this playlist here where I cover how to make wither cages if you're curious how all that works. And I also have the video linked below about the easy wither killing method. But I will be updating those videos showing how to set up the wither in a safe position so he doesn't come walking towards a player automatically. When trying to adjust the settings of my realms, it would sometimes cause a crash, and this has now been resolved. Throwing water potions on stuff is supposed to damage them in some cases, like for blazes and for Enderman, but during my testing I noticed that Enderman actually didn't take any damage from water bottles, so they went ahead and now fixed this. So now I can finally make an AFK Enderman killing farm just like I did with my blaze one, which is a really cool way to get blaze rods while being AFK and not taking any damage. So look forward to me to designing my new farm on my live stream. And I should be live right after watching this video, so make sure to head on over to my stream. Typically stream every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, in case you missed this one. Check out this video over here to see leaks of what 1.19 will be, and check out this playlist over here to see crazy things that we discovered in 1.18. I would like to thank all you guys for watching, and I will see all you guys over at my Twitch stream. Bye bye!